Hello and welcome to Jennifer Knatters, my knitting and nattering podcast. I am Jennifer. Welcome. Today is, I forgot what day of the week it is. Today's Wednesday, the 31st of July. I'll probably put this video up tomorrow. And yeah, thank you for watching. My last video had the most views of any video, the most views in a week, almost more than every other video combined. Not literally, but it feels like it. I got over 40 views last week, and the week before, for comparison, is still sitting at 3 views. So a lot of people turned out to say hi. Hi, welcome. The idea that people are actually watching this is fairly overwhelming, really. Like I'm practically ebullient. It is pretty darn amazing. I think I pretty much proved I will record this show for my one viewer. Hi, Chrissy. And even though I know there's a couple other people who said they watch it, hi, Aunt Kathleen. But yeah, the idea that more people are watching, if you've come back, hi. Wow. I'm saying too much. Sorry, like I said, I'm a bit verklempt, I suppose is the word. So yeah, welcome. I hope you like what you see, and let's get started. I actually have finished objects. You can't see my hands. I'm doing gestures. I actually have finished objects this week. Oh, I suppose I should introduce myself. I'm Jennifer, and I am American. I'm originally from California near San Francisco, and going on, just about 10 years ago, I moved to Scotland to see if I could make it work with a certain someone I'd met online on Twitter. It was less embarrassing then. And reader, I married him. We have 2 beautiful children. We live in the Scottish Highlands in the city of Inverness, the township of Inverness. Inverness, I believe, is legally a city. In the UK, it's a actual legal designation and not just we feel big, so now we will call ourselves a city thing. I believe the designation requires a cathedral. We do have a cathedral. And yeah, I love it here. And recently, my best friend from middle school came for a visit, and she and her family loved it so much that they are currently trying to get a visa to come live near us. So yeah, Scotland. It's amazing. So that's a little about me. I've been knitting 15 years. I was looking it up on Ravelry. I started knitting in 2014, so this is 15 years. My mother had taught me to knit when I was little. I was never particularly... My mother tends to give people beginning projects. Like, hey, you're a beginner, here's a beginner project. Not here's a thing you're interested in doing, but here's a thing that someone else has designated as the appropriate skill level. Go for it. And I tend not to enjoy beginner projects. I'm looking down at the thing in my lap, and I've just realized I thought I'd woven in the ends, but I must have only done it partially. Anyway, my mother would give beginner projects, and I'd be like, I don't want to do that project, which my mother would take to mean I don't want to learn that skill, and that would kind of be the end of it. So as an adult, certainly in the Bay Area, knitting was very popular 15 years ago, and I was out with some friends, and one of them had extra wool and sticks, and I said, teach me! Although the friend who had the extra wool and sticks was busy, so another person taught me, and she has a wool allergy. So she kind of leaned over my shoulder and was like, and now do this, without actually touching anything. So I had some weird habits for a couple of years that I eventually ironed out, and now I went from being, I used to refer to myself as the world's slowest knitter. I was so slow. Things took me ages. And now I'm starting to feel like I might actually be a fast knitter, all things considered. And in that vein, I have 3 finished objects this week, which is not as impressive as it sounds. Some of these were pretty close to done. So my first one, which you haven't seen in a little while, is Harriet's hat. And I have a WYS stitch marker. This is actually an acquisition. I thought, that's its little butt. There we go, my little sheepy stitch marker. I thought I need more more progress keepers, so that I can show where I've been since the last episode. This is not blocked, it's finished, but I kept thinking, I'll record tonight, and not doing it. So this is not blocked. This is Harriet's hat, which is, I almost forgot that I was showing this, so I didn't write it down. Harriet Middleton, I had it on a different page. And this pattern is in support of the Shetland MRI appeal. They're trying to get, that is where the color changes are. This side's better. The Shetland MRI appeal, it was either £4 or £5. The money's all being donated to try to get an MRI for Lerwick, which is the biggest town on the Shetland Islands. And yeah, it's pretty, so I thought that's a good cause. I don't need another colorwork hat pattern, but it's a good cause. I will buy it. And I had some of the colors in stash, so I only wound up needing to buy 3 colors. The white and the yellow are not the recommended pattern colors, but they're close enough. The yellow is a slightly more goldenrod, and the white is even more slightly off-white. The whites are barely any different at all, but the yellow should be more of a goldenrod. And otherwise, I knit everything to the pattern, didn't change anything. How am I going to put this on? This is a little small for me. I don't know if I'll even be able to get it on. Ta-da! Hat. I'm sorry, it's a little washed out. It is 10 o'clock at night. As you can see, it is not quite dark yet, but it is starting, the evenings are starting to draw in a little. So I have the light on, but yeah, I was knitting this to go in the box for the cousins who are moving here, but I think it is too small and it will not fit any of their heads, so I will give it to Tulip, which is the older of my 2 children. She is 6.5, and she's asked to go by Tulip. She's previously known as Kitten, and if you actually know me in person, when she was about 2, she insisted on being called Cucumber. But there we go. So I will wash this and block it. It'll stretch out a little bit, and I will give that to her, and we'll see if she ever actually wears it. Yeah. And I mentioned before that I hadn't been working on it a lot because I was finding it very frustrating. And it's just like every time you have to set up a new motif, you really have to pay attention to what you're doing. And I do not have a lot of brain right now. I have what my husband calls baby brain, which lasts well beyond babyhood and I think basically until they start school, and suddenly you have some time to yourself, and you can learn how to think again. But yeah, so I just decided that I really wanted it done this week, and I finished it, and it wasn't a problem, although I did periodically have to rip back because I just wasn't paying attention enough. So my second finished object is my Wildflower socks. This is my first one, which had previously just needed a heel. I knit both, and then for afterthought heels, I knit both and then add the heel. And that's the first one. And the second one was the one where I suddenly looked down at my lap and realized I hadn't woven in the ends on this. I really, really, really thought I had. So I'm not entirely sure what happened there. I did one and then I guess I put it away. Probably went to make dinner or something. So here's the second one. And the stripes on the socks match up really well, though the heels are different. Last time I showed it to you, these are toe up. So I had knit two here. This is another WYS stitch marker. This one is a little bear holding a flower. And this was a free gift or included add-on with the sheepy one I just showed you. So this one, since last we spoke, I knit all the way down and then added both heels. This one I actually need to redo because I don't know if you can see that, but when I Kitchenered the heel, I managed to do purl bumps all the way across. In my defense, I was doing it in the bedroom when my 2-year-old was asleep next to me, and I didn't even have a darning needle. I was just using the knitting needle of whichever side I wasn't on. It's like if I was doing the front, I pulled the back needle out and then pulled the yarn through and then tucked the back needle, and then it was very convoluted, and somehow I managed to purl all of the stitches. So that's probably why I haven't woven them in yet. I was just going to unpick it and re-Kitchener it shut. Although honestly, once it's in shoes, no one is ever going to notice, and I am not particularly the type to care. Yeah. The other thing about these is it does have shaped toes. Ta-da! We'll put them around so they don't look so weird. I was very careful when putting in the heel lines. They're not quite shaped at the same rate, but I was very careful when putting in the heel lines to make sure that I wasn't making two left feet. This is West Yorkshire Spinners. I did mention the other one, the Harriet's hat. It's the Jameson and Smith colorway. There's also a Jameson's of Shetland listing. I did the Jameson of Smith because that's what I had most of in my stash. This is West Yorkshire Spinners Signature 4-ply, and this is one of the Winwick Mum colorways. This one is Wildflower, and I am absolutely delighted. I haven't weighed these yet, so I don't know how much it used, but I usually can knit a pair of socks in about 60 to 70 grams. So yeah, and I didn't pull out any extra for color matching because when I did the first one, I started with pink going into purple, and then I ended yellow going into pink, so there was just a bit of the pink. So I started this one. It's not quite perfect, but it was pink going into purple again, and I stopped at the pink. I wound up having to make this cuff. I started the cuff at the same color point, but my gauge was slightly different. I talked about that in the last episode. My gauge was slightly different, so I wound up having to do a slightly taller cuff to get the socks to be the same length. I don't think when you wear them, it won't be noticeable. Having finished those, I thought I have another pair of socks that have been languishing for a while. I should really, they just need a toe, and you will be so embarrassed for me when you see what I had left to do. These are Toddler Socks for my 2-year-old, and that yellow stitch marker is where I was, where it had been sat in timeout. It wasn't even in timeout, it just been sat off to one side. So I knit down the toe the other night, and they were absolutely filthy. I have no idea how a pair of socks in progress got so dirty. I mean, I'm giving them to my 2-year-old, and she is very messy, so it's not like they need to be cleaned to start with. They're still wet. These I did wash. they have not dried. It's been hot, but it's also been humid and it's been raining, so I can't hang them out in the sun. And the radiators haven't been on, so these just haven't dried yet. It wasn't particularly sunny today. They're just wee socks. And red is her favorite color, except when it's yellow. So yeah, 2 little red socks again. This is West Yorkshire Spinners. I think this one is cayenne. Excuse me. I believe this is cayenne. It might be cherry. I have pretty much all the solid colors. I don't have like turmeric or the other, I don't have the browny, yellowy, orangey ones. But I've got almost all the other colors. I did buy all the Winwick Mum colors a while back. That was Stash Enhancement. They came out. I loved them. I bought them all. Having finished 2 pairs of socks, I cast on, and I apologize, this is nowhere near as neon pink as it looks, but I cast on 2 pairs of socks. The first one is another pair for me, and the stitch marker is also a new one. Like I said, I went on Etsy and I looked for stitch markers for progress keepers. This is just where I was when I started today, and then this one I moved up when I was trying it on to see how the length was, to say, okay, you need to do a little longer. And this yarn is Deep Stash. This is, sorry, I just have to look at my notes right now. This is Abstract Cat in the colorway Bonny. It's a 75-25 wool nylon. And I bought it at the Yarn Cake in Glasgow in April of 2012. Ravelry tells me April of 2012, that's when I bought this. That was when I just started knitting socks, and I bought a bunch of sock yarns, but it took me, if I was concentrating on 1 pair of socks, world's slowest knitter at the time, it would take me a month to knit a pair of socks. So I bought a bunch of sock yarn, and then I couldn't even knit it. So yeah, it's got this slightly lacy textured pattern, really easily memorizable. And these are the Anemochory socks, and I'm just going to pause the video right now so I can put up a picture of the pattern picture. So just hold on. And this is by Hunter Hammersen, so that's the Anemochory socks, which the pattern tells me means the dispersal of seeds by wind, if I'm recalling that correctly. But it is the dispersal of seeds, and it's either by wind or animal or something. But Anemochory, hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. If you are a botanist or otherwise a biology type person, and you know that I'm butchering this, I'm sorry. There we go. And I have just started, I cast these on Monday, taking Tulip to, she's doing trampolining this week, taking her to her trampolining class. This was not actually a good pattern. Like, I hadn't started the cuff or anything. I cast on at the trampolining place while watching my 2-year-old to make sure she didn't do anything crazy or dangerous. She's actually been really well this week. I thought she would be all over the place and completely bored, but every day I've brought her a very large snack, and she has mostly been content to eat and then just twirl around in front of me. It's working out really well. So I started these on Monday. Today is Wednesday, and I'm starting to turn the heel. And these, I held them up to another pair of socks, so I was kind of like, I want something like these, but different. And these look so skinny next to it, but it's a rib pattern, so it does stretch out, although my cast on is just a little bit on the snug side. But yeah, it's a rib pattern, so it will stretch out. I've started the heel flap. And then as you saw in the project picture, it's going down across the foot where it suddenly gets very dramatic and beautiful. So I realized these are no longer a walking around pattern, an out and about pattern, because once I get to the heel turn, that's some serious effort gonna, like, you know, I'm at the very least gonna need to have a chart. So tonight, in my infinite wisdom, I cast on another pair of socks. These are little ones. These ones are for Tulip, my 6-year-old. And this lilac is a close match to the gingham summer dresses that she can wear for her uniform. Her school's color is purple. So I'm going to do a little lacy pattern. This one is going to be Phalanges by Clare Devine from the Sock Anatomy book. If you have any interest in knitting socks and you do not have the Sock Anatomy book, do yourself a favor and go ahead and pick that up. I know I think it's like 10 pounds. Maybe it was on 10 pounds when I bought it. When I bought it, it only had children's sizes from baby to a small child. Well, a medium-sized child, I guess. And then Miss Devine went back and added adult sizes. So I know there had been an introductory rate, and all the pictures were so cute, little baby feet. And now they're all adult feet, which is fine, but the so cute little baby feet were really, really cute. And this is using the Opal, the lilac opal that I bought for this month's Boost Your Knitting project. And all I needed it for was the little intarsia hearts and one 3-row purple stripe on each sock. If that took 5 grams for both socks, I would be shocked. I didn't actually weigh it, but I can't imagine it took more than like 1 gram per sock to do that. So I've got lots of this left over. So I'm going to knit, from here it's going to have a lace pattern on the top of the foot, and then I believe after the heel the lace pattern will go all the way around. So I have just started and I've increased up to the full size, and these are so wee. I'm even looking at it and like, those can't possibly, let me just try them against the socks for the other one. Well, I guess they're slightly wider, but this one will have a lace pattern so it will stretch out more. So yeah, that is, I just cast these on tonight because I realized I no longer had a walking around project with my other sock. With the Wildflower ones, they were toe up, and I remember I reached one point where I just wound off a bunch of yarn and stopped at a color repeat, and then I knit until I ran out. Sorry, I thought I heard a small child cry out. I knit until I ran out of yarn, and so that's how long those socks are. With these, since they're top down, I have no idea how much yarn I need. I mean, legs and cuffs can be as long as you want, and it's just like, oh, well, this is a short sock or this is a long sock. The foot of the sock really needs to reach your toe. Unless you're doing like a yoga sock without toes or heels, it really needs to go over your toe. Yeah. So that's the 2 projects I cast on this week. And then I have one other project I've been working on. I have not made a whole heck of a lot of progress on this because it has definitely been Sockville around here. Got my little T progress marker that I made. So I've knit from there up to here, and this is a sweater front for a relaxed fit, slightly oversized A-line. This is a Possum merino blend. This is the CustomFit Alta by Amy Herzog, both the Alta pattern and CustomFit patterns in general. And I'm just working up the front of the pullover. I just have one more there and back to do, and then it'll be the last of these stitch markers are the bust increases. So cast on, decrease to the waist, increase back out again. This is a pattern made specifically to my measurements. That's what CustomFit does for you. And yeah, this cracks right along when I'm working on it. I finished 3 projects this week. This was not something I worked on a whole heck of a lot. So yeah, there's that. Once I do the last bust increase, I'll even have to read the pattern again, because then it's going to be armholes and eventually neckline. I believe the neck is a fairly high one, and then it's a cowl. And I was saying last time, I'm not entirely sure if I'm going to do the full cowl, or the other thing is you can do a separate cowl and then you can work together or take it off, depending on how hot you are, really. So that is what I have. And then today is the 31st of July, so tomorrow is August 1st, and on August 1st the next pattern for Boost Your Knitting by the Arnold Colorfords is coming out. And this is Boost Your Knitting, Another Year of Techniques. One of my earlier episodes was a review of their first book, A Year of Techniques, which also was run as a sort of mystery knit along. So just like that time, they have collected all the patterns for the book, solicited all their patterns, pulled it all together, and then while they're still editing them and getting it together, they have been like a pre-order, and then you get one chapter at a time as a digital release. And then I think this month, possibly next month, I think it was supposed to be sometime this month, but there's a bit of a problem. I believe I covered it last week, but Sockmatician was one of the designers, and after his behavior that I talked about last time, they felt they had to pull the pattern, and I completely support them in this, although I am curious to know what it was. But they yanked the pattern, so they had to get a new pattern in to replace it at the very last minute, basically a week before they were supposed to send the final proofs off to the printer. And I completely support them. This was the right decision. It certainly was not an easy decision to make from a business point of view. The amount of work and no doubt extra costs added into that. I assume either Jim or Jennifer themselves designed a replacement pattern. I don't know what technique he was doing either. But anyway, so yeah, the book I believe was supposed to come out this month. It may be delayed a little bit, but the pattern for this month was just sneak preview announced. So the name was up, though I didn't write down what it was, but it will be a pair of arm warmers, which I believe is just really long fingerless mitts, by Felix Ford, otherwise known as Knit Sonic. And the technique is selecting color work, and it's the 3rd month in the summer kit of yarn, and the remaining yarn is a selection of Jamieson & Smith 2-ply jumper weight, and there's 2 possible colorways, and each one has like 3 yarns making up a small a sort of gradient, and then 5 or 6 yarns in a contrasting gradient. So it's selecting color work, and it's going to be color work arm warmers. So I have a bag ready to go. And yeah, that pattern will come out tomorrow. Tomorrow is a very busy day in my house. We have the trampolining, and then, excuse me, Catherine has her only class of the entire summer. We did one session of Bouncy Castle a few weeks back, and she had the Bouncy Castle, and then Tulip had the Bouncy Castle the session after it, so they both wound up doing both sessions for 90 minutes of Bouncy Castle. And I think that's a large part of why they were too tired to do anything else the entire rest of the week. That and the heat. So the only other thing that's on for toddlers the entire summer is soft play, which is tomorrow. It's on every Thursday, but we don't drive, so it's kind of like, if we're getting a taxi over there, we're going to stay and we're going to do things. So Catherine has soft play tomorrow. Tulip will no doubt crash it. I told her it will depend on how busy it is. So there's a good chance I will not be able to fluff my yarns and see what goes together, pick my colors until at least tomorrow night. Optimistically tomorrow night. But in the meantime, I have wee simple socks, and I have very brightly colored complicated socks, and my purple jumper. So yeah, that kind of brings us on to acquisitions. I actually have acquisitions this week. After last week's podcast, I did feel inspired to go out and buy some stitch markers. So the ones I already showed you, which was the little sheepy. Come here, little sheepy. Oh, that's the sheep butt. This little sheepy. And this wee little bear came as a bonus. Hold still, wee bear. There we go. These ones were already ready, and this was Fellview Fibers. It's not quite focusing, is it? Anyway, there's a wee postcard. That's focusing. Oh. Probably shouldn't have done the coupon. Anyway, I didn't even particularly read that all the way through. That was those two, and then I did another order where it was 2 sets of stitch markers, and these are from Candy Skull Crafts. And in both cases, I was sorting, I always sort by either made in the UK or made in the EU. I know there are lots of beautiful things made in the US and Canada in particular, and that I would see them and I would go, oh, I love it, I must have it. I would order it and it would be sent here, and then I'd be hit with an impossible customs charge. The customs charge is based on both the value of the item and the shipping, plus an £8 handling fee. So that rapidly takes anything you buy into an unreasonable, I mean, the shipping is often pretty bad anyway, which is why having the shipping included in the value of the item is so egregious. But anyway, I got 2 sets of stitch markers. There are these purple butterflies, and I had already put one of these wee butterflies on one of my socks. And then I also got this yarn and cat set, and they each came on a clip-on keyring. These are a little larger than I was perhaps imagining, and the lobster clips are pretty big as well, but they'll be fine on like jumper projects or really anything in a heavier weight of yarn. They're not heavy, but they are fairly big. Or I may just clip them on my keyring, because look at how cute is little cat playing with green yarn and little green yarn. But I will say I unreservedly adore my wee little sheep, and I don't think I ever would have picked a bear holding a flower to be a wee charm for me, but I do think it is very, very cute. So I am fabulous happy with those. Happy reviews for everyone. And now I have lots. My search criteria, I told my husband, was that I want them to be cute so that I will, I'll like them and I want to use them, but not so cute that my children will try to steal them from me. And Tulip caught a glimpse of the butterflies and was like, oh, are those for me? Can I have one? So I hit the wrong side of the balance on that one. but they are slightly larger than I see myself using a lot, so if she does wind up stealing one from me, I will not be too terribly mad at her. And I actually have some yarn acquisition, which is I bought a skein of, this is another West Yorkshire spinner. This is both West Yorkshire spinner and Jameson and Smith. See, it's got a little in collaboration with, I don't know if you can read that, but that's their logo. This is West Yorkshire Spinners. It's a super wash, which I didn't think I knew when I first bought it. There it is, a wash symbol. A super wash Aran wool. It looks tweedy, but it's printed, and it first came out in these tweedy speckled colors, and then they came out with solid colors after that. And I have a skein of a pinky purple in this. And I keep looking at projects and being like, well, one skein's not really, I don't know. I mean, I could knit kind of a fitted hat. I do not prefer to wear fitted hats. But I figure with two, and this one kind of has purple speckles. I don't know if you can see that. And the pinky purple one has blue speckles. So I figure they'll blend together very nicely, which is what they're intended to do. So yeah, I bought this from the wee little yarn shop in Nairn when we went to the beach. So we can quickly brush by gardening. I did not do hardly anything. We have been eating some lettuce, and the girls are eating me out of house and home as far as the fresh peas from the garden go. I mean, like, they're getting ready to argue over them. Like, no, I counted out every pea. You get the same number. Next year, a lot more peas. And yeah, that's basically all. It has been too hot to be out in the garden. It has been absolutely ridiculously hot. I remember I tweeted one day that it was 9:15 and it was too hot to sit outside with my feet in the paddling pool in the sun. I had to wait till the sun went behind the trees and it cooled off a little bit. And we were out and about last week as well, because the weather, aside from being too hot, it was gorgeous and sunny, and very much days when you wanted to be outside doing things, preferably in the shade with your feet in a cold pool. So yeah, basically no gardening at all last week. So now we're moving on to general life stuff. And yeah, last week, too darn hot. Global warming last year made Inverness basically the nicest place in the world to be for the summer. Sorry, just a wee bit of tea. Decaf at this time of night. Inverness was lovely. It was in the low to mid-20s, occasionally mid-20s. It was sunny. It rained at night, so things didn't dry out too much. Like at least once a week it rained at night. We have a water butt connected to a rain barrel, connected to one of the drain pipes. So when it rains, it fills up, and then we use that to water the garden, which is not a thing we normally have to do. I don't know if you can hear that. That's my husband must have gotten up and is washing his hands or brushing his teeth or something before bed. Yeah, it was perfect. And we didn't really have anything scheduled. We went to the beach at least once a week. There was a bus at the time. The bus, the 15-minute bus ride got us into town 15 minutes before the 15-minute train to the beach. And then it was a 15-minute walk from the train to the beach. And then we'd spend 3 hours and walk back and then get the train home. And it was a really nice day out for everyone. So we did that at least once a week. I don't think we ever did it more than a week. We did it once a week, pretty much all last summer. That bus schedule has changed. So when we did go, we had to take a taxi into town. But then we got the bus or the train out and the walk, and it was really, really, really hot. There is no shade at the beach. You know, you can picture a holiday where it's the sun chairs and the umbrellas that you can hire. they don't have those in northern Scotland, or at least not at Nairn, and not at Rosemarkie, which is the other beast that I've been to. Excuse me. I'm just having all these little hiccups and belching. But yeah, no, northern Scotland does not have parasols and deck chairs on the beaches. It's not usually that warm or that sunny. So, global warming. Yay! I know we're now calling it climate change, but in the summer it can be global warming. Last summer was perfect. This summer, not so perfect. The UK did set a new record last week. Last Thursday was the hottest day. Here in Inverness, it got up to 30 degrees. And if you live somewhere else, in Fahrenheit, that's like 86 or something. If you live somewhere else in the world, you're probably like, oh, 30 degrees, that's nothing. There is no air conditioning here. We went out. We went to the museum. We went to the mall. We went to an ice cream shop. We went to a library. None of them are air conditioned. None of the things you can do for free are air conditioned. The only place we went to that had air conditioning was the grocery shop, because they have the freezer cases and stuff. So their store, Mark and Spencer, is always freezing in there, and it was still cold on a really hot day. Although we went in, and then Tulip instantly started complaining that she was too cold, because of course we're there in, you know, sleeveless tops and shorts and stuff, and I was like, but at least we're not hot. Anyway, we didn't stay very long. It's like, we just have to grab a few things really quick and then we'll be out of here. So yeah, really, really hot, no air conditioning. The house was really hot. I had all of the blinds in here closed and all the windows open so that if there's a breeze it would go through, but the sun would reflect out, and that actually helped a lot. And I thought the room looked really nice with the lights and the blinds, and I thought it looked very warm and cozy in here, like a study, or, you know, a room that should be lined with books and people smoking pipes kind of thing. And I mentioned this to Chris, and he was just like, what on earth are you going on about? So apparently I was the only one who got the vibe. Catherine complained. She went in there and she's like, dark, no, like dark. I'm like, it's not actually dark, it's just not bright in there. Anyway, closing up all the curtains that got the afternoon sun really did help, and I wish we had done it several days earlier. Yeah, we went to the park a lot, played in the paddling pool in the back, fun stuff like that. In less fun news, on my extended family side, one of my uncles passed away last week. My mother is the oldest of 7 children, and the next oldest, who was going by Raven, their other brother, and the younger of my 2 brothers all share the same birthday, July 13th, and the day before his birthday he had, I don't know if it was a heart attack or a heart infraction, or I know we all use the term heart attack fairly generically, and that is not actually accurate. He had a heart attack in layman's terms, and they induced a coma to help his body try to recover. It did not. His family had asked that we not talk about how, like, the doctors didn't think he was going to wake up. They wanted people to still be, like, to have hope until there was no hope left to be had. So I didn't mention anything about this last time, but my mom and the other 5 siblings all went there. They were with him along with all of his children, and his wife, children from his previous marriage. They were all there. And they took him home, and then he very peacefully slipped away, and they had kind of a living wake. And then, yeah, he's been cremated. He's not been interred. My understanding is that his family will probably spread his ashes somewhere. He was very adventurous, went to Burning Man every year, did a lot of mountain biking. I think he went hang gliding for a week once. Yeah, he was, my mother is 74, so I think he was 73. My mother 74? Yes, my mother is 74 this year. So he'd be 73. That sounds right. So yeah, I didn't mean to make this so maudlin. This is my podcast, so I'll talk about me. I haven't been particularly shook up about it. Our families used to be really close. We used to live really close to each other, and we'd get together everybody's birthdays, 4th of July, Memorial Day was my birthday, but 4th of July was my brother and the uncle's birthday, and because my mom's family, they're pretty much spread out. There's an aunt in Alaska, and a lot of them are in Chicago, and we were in California, one in New Mexico. They were the only other family that was near us, but when they divorced, my aunt and uncle got divorced, my father decided he didn't respect either of them and wouldn't let my mother put any effort into seeing their family. So we didn't particularly see much of them from that point on. And that was, I was 10-ish, 10, 11 when that happened. So we were really close as kids to that specifically branch of the family, and significantly less close as adults now. I know my brothers were both closer with them as adults. They made more of an effort to reconnect with the family. They live near a ski slope, and so they'd go snowboarding and stuff like that, and spend time with them, stay with my cousins and stay with my uncle, and but that was not a thing that I did. So yeah, it has, I think it's kind of shook the family. He's the first one of their generation. They are having a family reunion, and I can't remember, in the not very distant future. In August they're having a family reunion, so at least they'll all get to see each other again. I don't think any of his immediate family are there, but the 6 surviving siblings will be able to spend some time together and take comfort from each other. So yeah, that is a heck of a place to leave this. I'm really sorry for that. As you can probably hear, the sky feels sorry for me, for his family. The sky is sad for me. Knitting. So hopefully I might have a little sock to show you next time. Or one finished big sock, or dare to dream a finished front half of my pullover. And I'll have my Boost Your Knitting project at least started. One can only hope. Thank you so much for joining me. If you stuck around, I think this will probably be around an hour. I stopped the video, so this half is 30 minutes. And I didn't actually check how long the first half was, but I guess it was probably around 20-25 minutes. So yes, thank you for coming to join me. Thank you for sticking around. And I hope you tune in to watch next week. If you do want to find me anywhere on social media, I am Noirem, all one word, Noirem on Twitter and Ravelry, and I am jenna.aves on Instagram. Thank you so much, and I will talk to you hopefully next week. Bye.